Did this happen? Because the difference between real money and paper money, money which is sunnah and paper money, is that money which is sunnah is money in which the value of the money is in the money. Someone should teach that to the Saudis. Go teach it to the Saudis who want to teach Islam to all the rest of the world. Go teach it to the Saudis. The value of the money is in the money. The definition of the paper money is that the value of the money is no longer in the money. And so the value can be changed. Every time the value is changed, the value goes down. What happens when the value of money goes down? The first thing is that there is a massive transfer of wealth from the masses to that predatory elite, which in this case was the government, Uncle Sam. The masses lost half of their wealth, almost half. That's the first thing that happens when the value of the paper money goes down. What's the second thing that happens? The answer is this. I worked for the whole month. I got my salary in gold. Could buy a camel. Took it home. Put it underneath the pillow. Took it out after 5 years, you could still buy the camel. 10 years, you could still buy the camel. But when I get my salary in paper now, I could buy a camel, take it home, put it underneath the pillow. A few years later, when I take it out, can't buy a camel anymore. Could only buy a jackass now. So now I'm beginning to feel like a jackass because someone has ripped me off. Where did my money go? If you could answer that question, where did your money go? Who took your money? And how did they take your money? You would understand the game that they're playing. We used to have men like that. In North America we had one Islamic scholar who was like that, and then they killed him. A man named Malcolm X. He didn't have a PhD from Al-Azhar, but he could see better than any Sheikh. Who took my money? And how did they take him? Did they take it? They had riba in their blood.
They used a blanket when Shaitan was in their blanket.
Alright, you come close by me here. MashaAllah, he's a brave boy, yeah? Sit down. I make a dua that one day you'll also sit here on the chair and you'll also give the lecture, inshallah. A few years later I take the money out of my pillow. Can't buy a jackass anymore. Can only buy a goat. A few years later can't buy a goat anymore. Can only buy murgi, dajaja, chicken. I mean, you got to eat a lot of halwa not to be able to see that this is haram. In other words, this money should faithfully preserve my 1 month of sweat. And Sunnah money did that all through history. Now let me introduce you to something very sinister that occurred. In fact, it was more than something haram, it was riba. But the Prophet had said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, about the riba which would come with Dajjal. What did he say? He said that it will be as difficult to recognize it as it would be to recognize a black ant on a black stone on a dark night. I mean, you don't need a PhD from the University of New South Wales to recognize. The only man who can see that ant, the black ant, on the black stone, on the dark night, is the one who has some light. You don't need a PhD to understand that. Huh? Nobody else can recognize it. Nobody else. Not even a PhD from Al-Azhar University. You cannot recognize it unless you have Noor. And guess what? It isn't sold in the stock market. Noor. يَهْدِ اللَّهُ لِنُورِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah guides to His Noor whomsoever Allah wishes to guide. My 1 month of sweat is now reduced. Only 2 weeks have been kept in the money. And 2 weeks of my sweat has disappeared. Is this permissible in Islam? Allah speaks in the Quran in connection with a prophet whose name was Shu'aib radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Bismillahi awwaluhu wa akhiruh. My 1 month of sweat has now been reduced to 2 weeks. Okay? What does Allah say about this in the Quran? It's there in the Quran. It's there. But we don't notice it. The Prophet Shu'aib alayhi salam and the market or the economy of the people of Shu'aib alayhi salam is a corrupted market. There's a lot of ripping off going on in this market. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to it in the Quran, and He declares 3 times in the Quran. Listen to the words. وَلَا تَبْخَسُ النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. Do not do this. My 1 month is now reduced to 2 weeks. Do not diminish and make less the value of people's property, people's labor, etc. That is haram. And so this money, which is losing value, is by the definition of the Quran, haram. But we were asleep. Let me conclude myself in it so nobody will be angry with me. We are all asleep. English muftis of Islam still have to declare that this paper money is haram. The rip-off has taken place. The thieves have looted everything. Our people are now in miserable poverty, destitution, imprisoned in that poverty. كَادَ الْفَقْرُ أَنْ يَكُونَ كُفْرًا, said the Prophet ﷺ, that this poverty and destitution can lead a people to kufr, and that is what is happening in many parts of the world. But the mufti still cannot see that this is haram. You will not get a fatwa from the mufti that this is haram, much less to get a fatwa from the mufti that this is riba.